Hello. Hello. Is okay. I think we're good. Last time I forgot to hit the play button, and that didn't go very well. I mean, not the play button. There's like a go live button on YouTube that I forgot about. But what is going on? I assume people can hear me now. And we got a little bit. Let's see if this works. Hopefully this works. I don't know how good it's gonna be, but whoa, oh, my chat's working too. How the hell did this All right, we'll go with that. I thought the chat box didn't work. Okay, I'm still figuring things out, still new with streams. Hope everyone's doing well. I got some footage in the background just to, hey, in case people want to theorize about certain things, I can always cut to certain parts of the footage, assuming it's not too laggy. If it is too laggy, I guess I'll just have to take it down. But for now, I think it's good. And I figured, been a little busy, haven't had a chance to go over, tons of these Tears of the Kingdom theories that everybody is speculating about. So maybe I would just kind of give my thoughts on what I've think so far, what I've seen. I've watched a lot of other people's theories, and I've really only done one like true theory video. The other one I did on like how Zelda 2 and Tears of the Kingdom could be similar in the same way that the original Legend of Zelda and Breath of the Wild were similar, but that wasn't really like a theory video. So I figured, based on what people want to ask about certain theories they've seen, I'll comment on other theories that I've seen and kind of give you my take on them, and we can go from there. And we don't have to, it doesn't have to all be Tears of the Kingdom, but I figure that's the main thing people want to talk about. People are still pretty excited from the trailer, but obviously we had things like the Mario movie and other stuff like that, so always fun to talk about that stuff too. But I figure we can talk about Tears of the Kingdom. Of course, I think the biggest news was like there was like a Link statue at a convention, so people kind of got to see a more up close, like detailed version of what Tears of the Kingdom Link will look like, which is pretty cool. I think there was some details there that maybe give us a little bit more information, which is cool. And someone on Twitter, unfortunately it was in another language, but they had some really detailed information on like those vial things that are hanging on Link's belt. And I think based on what people were commenting on that, there could be an interesting thing with that green energy that most people maybe weren't thinking of. I think people were thinking of it more as like a magic meter, but it could end up being something a little bit different, which is almost like something you would need to survive or whatever. So I'll get into that in a little bit, but I figured I can start with maybe some things that I feel like are probably not likely to happen in this game, in Tears of the Kingdom. And that would be, I've seen some theories about how, the ending logo and stuff looks like there could be things involving Twilight or like Twilight Princess in any way. And I'd probably just say that is not going to happen in any way. That's my guess, is that we're not seeing anything Twilight related aside from maybe like a very minor like Easter egg. Aside from Easter eggs, I don't think there's a chance we're seeing any Twilight stuff. I think the focus is going to be on whoever the Sky tribe is. We assume it has to do with something to do with the Zonai, whether that's their actual name or they come up with a new name for a new thing. That's entirely possible, but I'm leaning towards no Twilight stuff. Aside, like I said, aside from Easter eggs, like they may put some things in there where you can loosely tie it to Twilight, but I don't think there's going to be anything overt. Like, they may give you enough to make some theory videos the same way we theorized about Skyward Sword and Skyloft and the Uka from Twilight Princess. Like, there's nothing there that directly connects them, but I feel like people still try to figure out ways to connect them. I think that's going to be kind of a similar thing if they do any relation to like the Twilight realm or whatever. And I think the same would go for, like, I've seen people saying, oh, like Vati is going to come back because there's a logo that looks like the eye and could be related to like the Four Sword. And again, I just feel like unless the Four Sword is somehow in this game, I don't think we're seeing Vati. I think Vati was totally connected to the Four Sword and everything that had to do with that. So in this game, obviously looks like it's centering around the Master Sword again and reconstructing the Master Sword. So I don't think there's any room to have the Four Sword again, aside from if they wanted to do like an Easter egg or anything like that. So yeah, I just do not in any way see Vati or anything like that. I feel like Zelda, for the most part, they like to do stuff that's new. And sure, they bring back characters and like, but it's usually minor characters, or they kind of have their like core staple characters. But as far as characters that were maybe, you know, the characters that were very prevalent and part of a core kind of gimmick of a previous game, a character like Midna or something like that, I just don't see that character coming back. Or a character like Vati, although, you know, Vati was in 3 games, but like I said, they all had to do with the Four Swords. So I feel like if there's no Four Sword, there's no Vati. So I would probably specifically shut down those 2 theories, like, confidently, that we're not going to see that. And yeah, any questions you guys want to leave in the chat, please feel free. It doesn't have to be Tears of the Kingdom related, but I just want to give my thoughts on theories that I've seen and whether I agree with them or not. And those 2 specifically, Minish Cap stuff, Twilight Princess stuff, as much as people want to see that stuff come back, I just don't see it happening. And I don't think we need either of them. I know they looked at... I forgot what I was going to say, but Dan, what's going on? New villain then, or just different form Ganon? There's a chance for another villain, but it does seem like it's going to be focused on Ganondorf and him being resurrected. And with all this malice being a focus, I would be surprised if there was another big villain. I mean, they could have like a minor villain, but most likely it looks like Ganondorf is going to be the main villain. And I think that's cool because we haven't seen Ganondorf since Twilight Princess, which was over 15 years ago at this point, right? I think so. I mean, we've seen Ganon, but not Ganondorf. And I think people want to see the character Ganondorf back, so. Maybe straight up demise again? I mean, it's possible, but I highly doubt it. Because at this point, like, Demise's spirit or whatever basically exists in Ganondorf the same way that Hylia, her spirit or whatever, exists in Zelda, which basically can kind of segue into my thoughts on this character, if I can pause it at the right time. Whoops. Hey, pause. Let's see. There we go. So this character, my thoughts on this character is much like, wow, what is it? Okay, did it work right? Okay, so much like Demise was basically reborn as Ganon, and Zelda and Hylia was reborn as Zelda, it's possible that if the green energy hand thing is this character, which we don't even know for sure yet, if the green hand thing is this character, this could actually be a separate character, but it seems like this hand thing is this character, then my thoughts are either this character is like the equivalent of Hylia and Demise, but for Link's, for like basically like the spirit of the hero, because it's got the green energy, and green's always associated with courage. We already have the blue energy that's used for like the Sheikah Slate, which would make sense with knowledge, like it's technology, and then the red is the malice, which is associated with power. So it feels like it lines up that green energy would be focused on courage and would be associated with Link, and also that the Zonai tribe were warriors, and if this thing is associated with the Zonai tribe, then it makes sense, like courageous warriors, whatever. I feel like it all lines up that this could potentially be like the deity of the hero, the same way that Demise and Zelda have, I mean, Demise and Hylia have their counterparts. So this could be Link's counterpart. If it's not that, then my guess is it's just a completely new character that we have no way of guessing. I feel like it's one or the other. Either it's, I mean, and again, it's still going to be a new character, but it's either going to be directly like associated with Link and the spirit of the hero, or it's just going to be some completely new character that's like specific to this game and doesn't really have any greater implications on the timeline or the history of Zelda, and it's just this random spirit that possesses Link, and we need his help or its help or her help to finish this quest. So that's what I'm thinking. And I've seen other people speculate the same thing, and I think the biggest thing really is like the green energy. We assume it represents courage. We don't really know what else it might be at this time. Hyrule Heroine says, I feel that more this being a courage figure than the theory that this deity is Hylia. I agree. A lot of people think it's Hylia. I don't see it. I feel like Hylia already has cemented its position in like Zelda lore, and even though it makes sense that maybe the Zonai tribe would have a different interpretation of Hylia, that could totally make sense. I feel like from a developer perspective, I don't know why they would want to they would muddy the waters by basically having two different, like Hylia be represented like image wise, because they already have what I'm getting at is like they have the statues of Hylia, so we already have a very like clear like representation of what Hylia, even though we never really saw her character in person, we know what her character looks like based on the statues and like the little thing at the beginning of Skyward Sword. So I feel it'd be confusing to make like another kind of deity imagery of Hylia that's totally different looking. So yeah, I just don't feel like they would do that from like a developer standpoint, even though like in universe you could easily make it make sense. Yeah, and again, like the green energy thing seems not like something Hylia, and also like you can see in the first trailer, I think, yeah, maybe not enough people pay attention to, like, where is it? Here. Wait. So this, I would assume, if again, we go by the assumption that the green hand is that figure, like, does this, like, I mean, I feel like this clawed sharp hand doesn't seem like that doesn't seem like something Hylia would have, you know what I mean? If we assume it's the same character, like, this doesn't seem like Hylia to me, you know what I mean? Hylia is supposed to be more graceful and angelic, I feel like, and this looks like, this hand looks pretty scary if you ask me. For sure. Plus, if this figure is Hylia and the green hand, yeah, why is the hand green and not blue or golden or whatever? Totally agree. Yeah, this just doesn't seem like Hylia at all to me. And plus, Zelda, like, I know people say, like, oh, Hylia can, like, exist outside of time or whatever, but I mean, in actuality, it seems like Hylia is, at this point, Hylia lives within Zelda, right? I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. Hylia's spirit or whatever just reincarnates with Zelda throughout the time. So just doesn't seem like it would be Hylia in any way to me, other than people just kind of look at the 7 tiers or whatever and try to draw conclusions, and the end screen with, where is it? People also go to this screen, but shown earlier, where is it? They have the hands together. Is it coming? Yeah, here. Which is, yeah, I could see how people might think that, because it's supposed to be like the circular nature of, like, reincarnating, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. And also, this figure's like way taller than Zelda, but I don't know if Hylia was supposed to be tall, but nevertheless, I don't think it's Hylia. Chances are it's Link's hero spirit, or just new character for the game that we cannot predict and do not know. But an interesting theory, like, with the green energy that people are speculating about, I think people are relating it to, I haven't seen this movie, it's like a Miyazaki movie, and I honestly don't know, it's like Princess Mononoke. I have not seen it, but I want to watch it because a lot of people are thinking that this game's going to take a lot of inspiration from it. But I think someone was talking about how the green energy that, like, Link has, and what he has on, like, his side belt, which like what he has on his side belt with the vials, that could be something he needs to continuously supply himself with to like stay alive, or else he'll get, like, fully corrupted. Like, the green energy is keeping the malice out of him, because even on that statue that we saw, the statue we saw at the conventions, if you look it up, you can see pictures on Twitter and Reddit and stuff. Like, there's kind of, like, burning on his arm and stuff. So there's a chance that, or it's kind of like, what is it? Is it Iron Man 2, where he needs, I don't know. I thought it was something like something was killing him, or maybe even maybe it's just like regular Iron Man, right? He has that energy keeping him going, but if the energy runs out, then the piece of metal, right, will, like, kill him. So it could be that kind of situation where we have to keep a supply of green energy, or else Link's going to get fully corrupted by malice. So that could be interesting. And it's something that we didn't expect, and that's, like, what the vials are. They're, like, slowly, like, they're using it, but that could be cool. That could be a really interesting mechanic, and that'll almost be like Majora's Mask in a way, where we are kind of up against the clock in a way. Or even like the Silent Realm in Skyward Sword, right? Where if you didn't get a tear in enough time, then all the monsters came at you. So there was kind of that intensity. But that through the whole game could be very stressful. Who's to say this deity is a female? It could be a male figure, long hair. Yeah, no idea on the, you know, what the deity is, if it's male, female, or something else, for all we know. So no way to really tell at this point. They did a good job of making it extremely ambiguous so that it could be anything. Yeah, the mechanic would make so much sense. It definitely could. Yeah, it's like Iron Man Link, or I think people said it's similar to Princess Mononoke, which I should just watch that movie because there's a chance. It wouldn't surprise me at all. You know, those Miyazaki is very revered in all throughout the world, but you know, being from Japan, I would assume that a lot of people would want to take inspiration from a lot of his works. And a lot of people say that's a really great movie, so I should watch it. But again, yeah, if there's any footage, I think I have all the Tears of the Kingdom footage that we've seen on here, just looping, in case people want to reference certain things. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that mechanic. It depends on how they implement it, though, because if it feels like you're constantly in the Silent Realm or whatever, that could be very stressful. But maybe there's certain areas where it uses more green energy or something like that. Just a thought. But there's also, like I said, a chance that it really just sticks to being like a magic meter, like some people think it might be. But I would like to see either, honestly. Just needed some tea. What else? The Sky Islands, someone did point out, yeah, not sure if you'd want to see the Majora's Mask like stress in such a long, expansive game. Yeah, it all depends on how they implement it. It really does. I could see, like, if it has a really long timer, that could be interesting. But if it is something where you need to constantly get it, yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I really like the idea from like a story perspective. I just don't know how they want to do it from a gameplay perspective. That's the only thing. But I feel confident that if they did have it be a gameplay mechanic, that they would do it in a way that wasn't too annoying, unless it was like very small sections like the Silent Realm. Yeah, and it seems unlikely, but, and I'm not gonna like, I mean, I already talked about it in my first analysis video. I'm probably not gonna clickbait it anymore, but I still think playable Zelda is not, I mean, it's not off the table. Because as much as people want to like look at the footage and like, oh, we haven't seen Zelda since she fell in the pit or whatever, it's like that really means nothing. They've shown us exactly what they've wanted to show us. So I feel like playable Zelda is definitely not off the table. I'm not saying it's like definitely gonna happen, but that was my original interpretation of that scene where the spirit and Zelda are like holding hand, or not, I don't know, making a circle, and I was almost thinking of like, there you go, the loop between playing as that character, which has been embodied in Link, and Zelda working together in whatever the heck that cave thing is trying to say. So I felt like, oh, that's totally possible. Zelda and this being maybe worked together to stop Ganondorf or to seal Ganondorf in the past, and now they need to work together to seal him again. But that doesn't mean Zelda's playable. It's possible, because if you think about it, pretty much every single ending of a Zelda game does involve Zelda and Link working together to stop Ganondorf, right? She's usually present for those battles, right? She's there at the end of Ocarina of Time, right after you deliver the final stab on Ganon. She uses her powers and helps seals him. She's there at the end of Wind Waker. She's there at the end of Twilight Princess. So it doesn't necessarily mean she's playable, because it's always about them working together anyway. How do you feel about the... So Hyrule Heroine says, how do you feel about the theory that Tears of the Kingdom will loop the timeline? I personally kind of hope Tears of the Kingdom will establish the end of the cycle. I feel like a time loop would be unfortunate for our gang. I don't know. I don't see a loop in any way. I feel like they're trying to get away from the timeline in as gracefully as I think they're trying to be as graceful as possible to get away from the timeline, and I don't think they will break the cycle either, because I feel like that cycle is a really cool trademark of the Zelda series, and it helps justify how there's new Links and new Zeldas all the time. Like, breaking the cycle kind of really, it limits them more than it doesn't limit them, I feel like, unless they are looking to have new characters. But then, is it really Zelda if you don't have at least Link and Zelda involved? I don't know. I feel like people are grasping at straws for that. We don't really have enough evidence to make any kind of conclusion like that. My thing is that, well, or at least my thinking is that Breath of the Wild is more of like a soft reboot timeline wise. That we are kind of, I think they're just going to try and move forward, like with Breath of the Wild being the first game, Tears of the Kingdom will be the second game, and then I think maybe there's a chance that whatever the next game is, it will take place after Tears of the Kingdom, but could be something entirely different. But I feel like they're probably just going to go mostly in chronological order from now on. That's what I would have to guess. And if they do go back, they could go back for like a 2D. If they make like a 2D Zelda game, I could see them going back to the old timeline, which I do hope they make a 2D Zelda game at some point. I hope after Tears of the Kingdom, the next Zelda is a 2D Zelda or something. So that, yeah, I could see them with like 2D Zeldas going back, squeezing in new games in the old timeline. But for the 3D games, I feel like they're just gonna have Breath of the Wild be the soft reboot and just make it less complicated from there on out. Right, I think that they have so many ideas that are low-key and are low-key afraid that the audience will feel like their idea would be out of place given the timeline lore. Tears of the Kingdom could be a graceful way of introducing it. You think going forward other games will have any relation to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, or they'd be completely separate? They could definitely have some relation to it. I just think they will probably try to make the timeline less complicated going forward. I think they gave us the timeline the best they could, and I think they want to move past it, and I think they want to make the timeline less complex. Because, yeah, I think the whole problem with the timeline from the beginning is that basically they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, which was they wanted to be able to reference past games, but they also didn't want to have that interfere with whatever they wanted to do for the game that they were making. So then things got really screwed up because of that. Because of that, you know, because it was like, if you think about, the whole problem started with, you had A Link to the Past. A Link to the Past had a backstory that was called the Imprisoning War. And then they made Ocarina of Time, and they wanted to make Ocarina of Time the Imprisoning War, but then they did their own things that made it not exactly like that war, so that it kind of made it impossible for A Link to the Past to happen. And then they just made a game that was a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, and then it got all screwed up. They always just wanted to do what they wanted to do. But they wanted to reference other games, so that's how it got messy. But I think now they probably learned their lesson, and they're just kind of like, yeah, Breath of the Wild, it's way, way, way past all those other games. And here's this next game. It takes place right after it. And my guess is the next game will just take place sometime after that. And they can always just keep going further into the future, so it doesn't matter what happened in the past. Yeah, I think they're kind of over the whole timeline thing. As fun as it is, they like the idea of the timeline, but hate being exactly. I think, yeah, they enjoy that there is a history to the lore and the world, but they don't like the fact that they wouldn't be able to do a certain thing because it doesn't fit into their timeline. Which is kind of hilarious, because things like the Wind Waker, like the adult timeline, they've really locked themselves in there, and I don't know if we'll ever see a game happen beyond that, because it was just like the whole land was flooded. Then they establish a new Hyrule. They could make a game way after Spirit Tracks, but it would have to be in New Hyrule, or they would have to come up with an explanation about why Hyrule was like deflooded or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, and I think that's just why they were just like, forget everything. Breath of the Wild is the new thing. It's the soft reboot. And it's what they probably needed to, because it just got more and more difficult, like, to where you could even put a game, because it's like, oh, you can't, they may not be able to do a certain mechanic in a certain timeline because of the way things were left in a previous game or something like that. Let me see. Hopefully I'm not lagging or anything. I may close the footage just for now, because I was getting some I think my CPU is overloading a little bit, so maybe I'll let it chill for a bit. Agree with you, Indiana. Do you think future Zelda games will be open world moving forward, or even the same art style? I think that not everything will be open worlds. I do think it's the direction going forward. I think we'll still get 2D Zelda games, or 2D like Zelda games in between, potentially. Like, that's my guess, is that they're gonna do some 2D Switch game next, unless they do another remake, which could be possible. They could remake the Oracle games, but I'd really rather see a new 2D Zelda, which we haven't seen since like 2013. But the art style, no, I think they'll change the art style, and we'll see. I think based on the reception of Tears of the Kingdom, because Breath of the Wild was a reaction to Skyward Sword, so we would hope Tears of the Kingdom will be a reaction to Breath of the Wild. I think that the clear feedback from Breath of the Wild was, this is great, but we want more dungeons, and then it's perfect. So hopefully we get dungeons. And we'll see how people react to Tears of the Kingdom. I'm sure they're in the early, like, once they finish the game, they'll go into the early phases of planning the next game. Yeah, art style I think could definitely change for sure, and it will definitely be on new hardware whenever that happens. So yeah, I think both of those are definitely, if people are just kind of over open world Zelda after these two games, they could go back to a more linear style. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They're not locked in to any type of format, which is nice. And yeah, the Switch 2, whenever they do that, hey, what's going on, Ace? I feel like the Switch, whenever the next Switch is, like, they don't need to change anything except give us better Joy-Cons and a more powerful system. Like, they don't need a new gimmick. I think the Switch is like the perfect niche for them to continue to be like the hybrid handheld console. I mean, it's sold, I think it's outsold the Wii now at this point, which is kind of crazy. So I think they kind of have found their position and they don't need to try a new gimmick. I think the Switch is perfect. Just make the Joy-Cons better, just make it more powerful, and that's your next console. Which I'm sure that helps with their R&D budget or whatever. I feel like they've already got their marching orders and just have to deliver it whenever they want to. But it's tough because they have such a really high install base right now with the irregular Switch. But who knows? I don't think there's any way. I would be shocked if Tears of the Kingdom launched with the new Switch. I don't think that's happened. I think we would have heard about, I think they would have revealed it by now if we were getting it, because usually, right, they'll reveal a new console like a year before it comes out, I feel like, a lot of times. So we probably would have known about it if they're going to do it. I mean, they could do a Pro model. Seems like that's probably not going to happen, though. Zelda, Ace says Zelda games can be everything epic or comic, long and short. They can do, so maybe they can do another after Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, I mean, they can really do anything. Yeah, they can definitely do comical. We saw with Triforce Heroes, so and they had sense of humor in all of the games, really. Even, I mean, Breath of the Wild had plenty of funny moments too. The whole the boss with Koga and the flower lady and plenty of other moments. What's up, Sam? I kind of hope they'll move to the smartphone business model. Like, just keep making incremental improvements to the Switch every couple of years, but they'll all be backwards compatible with old games. I would love that, Sam. I would definitely love that. But yeah, they really just need to make them exactly. They found what works. We don't need to, like, Nintendo usually is so dramatic with their console changes, but I'm pretty confident based on the success of the Switch and how much people love it. I think they know that the best move is to just make a more powerful Switch as the next console. And if they want to call it the Switch 2, I mean, they should just keep the name. They should just do it cell phone style. You're right. I mean, like, yeah, you have the Pixel and the Galaxy, iPhone. They just go by numbers, and Pixel's on like like, I don't know, maybe it's on 7 now. I feel like I still have like a 4, or maybe it's 6. Pixel's on 6 or 7, and just because the Pixel's on 6 or 7 and iPhone's on like what, 12 or something, Yeah, people get caught up in the numbers, and they're afraid, like, oh, if your mom is gonna buy you a system and it's like the PlayStation 5 or the Switch 2, well, she's gonna be like, well, 5 is bigger than 2, so I'm gonna get the 5. First of all, she'll never be able to get that PS5 walking into a store still 2 years later. But yeah, I think people are smart enough to know that even though it's going to be called, if they just call it the Switch 2, that it's still going to be like, this is the new thing to get. I know that you want a tribute to Zelda 2, but they can try something with this. They could. Zelda 2, yeah, I don't know if they'll ever go back to Zelda 2. I wouldn't mind seeing a remake of Zelda 2 in some way. I feel like if you tweak some things, it could be a really good game. But yeah, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom could launch with its own kind of console, with its own, like, I could see like a special OLED Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch, and I'd be very tempted to get that. But I also think not Zelda 2, the Switch 2's probably around the corner. But we'd have to start learning about it soon. It could, I feel like Switch 2 is like a 2024 type of situation. Like, we learn about it next year and it comes out the following year. And hopefully it's a substantial upgrade, because Switch was already kind of behind the times when it came out, but now it's like really falling back. But I mean, they're still able to do a lot of impressive things, and Tears of the Kingdom looks really good on it. So, and yeah, I mean, there was all those comments where people were saying, oh, there's no way Tears of the Kingdom could be on a base Switch model. This thing's too advanced. But it doesn't really seem like... I feel like we would have learned about a Switch 2 by now, or a Switch Pro by now. I mean, they could always pull a Switch... If it's not a full upgrade, if it's like a 1.5 type of model, I guess they could really pull that out at any moment. But as long as people could still play it on the base Switch. But I would be shocked. I would be shocked. But yeah, what do you guys think? Any theories? Anything you want to see? What's going on, Nathan? Welcome. Anything you want to see in the new game? Will they finally let us pet dogs? You know, all that stuff. Will there be dungeons? Will the dungeons be underground? Will they be above ground? What are the sky islands? What do they mean? What is that tower thing that we see in the distance? Are dragons in this game? Someone see, you know, people are seeing dragons in the background, all that good stuff. Let's see. To me, it seems like Nintendo doesn't care about the timeline at all, which is a shame, because it was always fun to guess at what point a new game is set. They continue the timeline in a half-hearted way. I mean, it did get a little ridiculous, but it was fun. No, I totally agree. Raphael, I had a lot of fun prior to Skyward Sword coming out. Like, the year before Skyward Sword came out, I feel like Zelda Timeline stuff was in a really fun place, because Nintendo hadn't come out with anything yet. And yeah, with Nintendo not coming out with anything and A Link to the Past being a thing, it made it very difficult to put all the... Like, there was no graceful solution, so everyone had all these different theories. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot less interesting, but I think they've realized how ridiculous it's gotten too. For Tears of the Kingdom, Ace says he doesn't want Breath of the Wild 2. He wants something fresh, different than Breath of the Wild. Like Majora's Mask is not Ocarina 2. That's fair. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot tougher, though, because they're reusing the same Hyrule. So how they're going to make it interesting to revisit is definitely a challenge. But we have some hints based off of the artwork that it seems like there's probably going to be a lot of like Malice corrupted areas. Like we can see Death Mountain has Malice coming out of it. There's a big storm in the Rito area, and then obviously Hyrule Castle's floating in Malice. So there's going to be reasons to go back to all the areas, and I'm sure they will change. And I don't know if the islands are coming out of the ground and then going up to the sky, so there might be like all these craters around. Who knows? But it's going to be really tough to make it completely different just because they're using the same map. Nathan says, I think that Ganon will be in the Yiga clan pit and will be the final boss. That's why we see the floating island, because he's using the Earth's energy. The mysterious Yiga clan pit. I think he's under Hyrule Castle, though. That's the thing. I feel like he's under Hyrule Castle because he made it rise up, but that could also be they edited the trailer in a way to make us think that, right? Because we also see Death Mountain has Malice coming out of it. He could be in Death Mountain for all we know. Most likely not, but like Malice is... But it seems like based on the trailer that like Malice rises out of Hyrule Castle before anything else. So I feel like he's under Hyrule Castle. Timeline could be good if done right, not like Kingdom Hearts, for example. Most people don't do it right. Ace. Most people don't do the timeline right. Maybe only Grand Theft Auto has done the timeline right because they were just like, yeah, this game is set in this year and this game is set in this year, and they knew right away. And it didn't get complicated at all. So maybe GTA is the best timeline, at least the one that makes the most sense. And they have two different universes, and they were very clear about that. Like you have the 3D, the 3D era PS2 games, and then you have the HD era PS3 through, I guess, 5 now. He will have one big sunburn if he's in Death Mountain. Good point, Nathan. How might hearts be obtained this time around? I kind of wish heart pieces came back, although it's pretty unlikely. That's a very good point, and I really don't have a good answer for you because, yeah, we saw all the shrines went away. My guess is one of the potential things is that these sky islands are the new shrines, but it also seems like we can get from island to island. I don't know, but that's one possibility. Or maybe heart pieces came back. That's another possibility. It would make for an interesting exploration, especially for Hyrule again, because yeah, just adding all the heart pieces makes you want to go around, look around for all the heart pieces now. So I'd like to see him come back, but yeah, I wonder if they will do something like they did in like the stamina meter and all that. You do miss heart pieces. That was such a classic Zelda staple. I agree. Even though some games I didn't really enjoy collecting them, it was always nice to get them. When 90% of the side content was just getting heart pieces, that kind of made it not that fulfilling. But I will say that getting a heart piece as a reward for a side quest was much better than doing a side quest and then just like a Sheikah shrine pops out of the ground and then you get I guess the whatever, the soul thing that was basically a heart piece if you wanted it to be. So yeah, I'm game for heart pieces coming back. I'll put it that way. I'm definitely over the shrines and the 4 soul thing, but they could still do the 4 soul thing, just in a different way. Shrines were nice and fresh in Breath of the Wild, but if they return in Tears of the Kingdom, that would be a letdown for me. 100% agree, Raphael. 120 were enough. 100%. Plus the DLC too. So yeah, I'm doing my Breath of the Wild playthrough for my review, and I'm over the shrines already. I'm doing some of the DLC stuff, and yeah, the DLC. That middle part of the Champions Ballad is, I just don't like it. I like the beginning and I like the end, but the part where you gotta figure out where the 3 or the 4 things are is annoying. I'm thinking maybe Tears of the Kingdom, a futuristic Zelda, can be something interesting with Hyrule evolving technology to a modern version. Yeah, a futuristic one. I mean, anything's on the table, and it would be cool. I mean, we're starting to see a little bit more technology like we have in Breath of the Wild, and what we'll see in Tears of the Kingdom, potentially. I mean, we see some weird robot thing, so I wonder what that's about. One question, will it be like Splatoon 3, where if we play Breath of the Wild, we could get like a special outfit or something? I hope so. That'd be cool. They had, well, I mean, they had like the amiibo stuff, so maybe they will have something if you have save data. I know Pokemon likes to do that, so maybe they'll do like an amiibo thing. Steampunk Zelda would be cool. Yeah, I think that would be, Sam, that would be an awesome art style that, not only art style, but setting that I think could work with Zelda really well. I guess I'm getting Pokemon music now, but that works for me. Yeah, Steampunk Zelda would be cool. I mean, I guess we got a teeny bit, not really, with Spirit Tracks. It was just like a steam train. But if they're willing to do steam technology in that game, then I'm sure they're willing to do more. That'd be fun. For some reason, I feel like a 2D Zelda with steampunk would work really well. Maybe because of Spirit Tracks, but that's what I'm hoping after Tears of the Kingdom. Give us a nice little 2D Zelda on the Switch. I think that would be a lot of fun. And give us the kind of classic Zelda experience with 6 to 10 dungeons the old school way. That would be something I'd like to see, just because it has been, almost 10 years since we've gotten a new adventure in the old Zelda format. So like a Link Between Worlds was the last time we got one. Wasn't Twilight Princess steampunk? I don't really think so. I mean, they might have had, I guess they had like the Goron mines, but that wasn't really like steam technology. With like trains and blimps everywhere, railroads, yeah. And yeah, there'd be much more machines. Twilight Princess, I guess, maybe had like a couple things, same with Spirit Tracks, but yeah, it would be much more involved in the setting. 2 questions. If we don't have the champion abilities, 2 questions. If we don't have the champion abilities, and what happens to them? They would probably just do a story about, well, I mean, they would probably just say that they fulfilled, when Calamity Ganon like was destroyed, they fulfilled their purpose, so you don't have them anymore. And also maybe when Lynx gets corrupted with the Malice, he loses those abilities. That's also possible. They could use the Malice as an excuse. It's the same thing if you think about it. Like, Link has the Master Sword, which we knew was like, what, like 30 or 40 base power. You know now when the Master Sword gets destroyed in this game, if you can even use it, it's gonna be like 5 or 10 power, and we're gonna have to slowly power it up. Doctor Who style encounter of all the links, like with the time paradox, or yeah, like Spider-Man. You have like Legend of Zelda Far From Home, or wait, what was the last one called? I don't know. Something home. No Way Home. Twilight Princess had some, yeah, Steam elements, but medieval fantasy. Agreed. Yeah, there's still a lot of cool settings that they could do, and I think like both future and steampunk would be good. I feel like steampunk would be more fitting of Zelda. No Way Home. Okay, that was it. Thank you, Ace. Thank you. That, I don't know if they could handle that. I mean, I guess like Hyrule Warriors is like the closest we'll get to that, with all the different timelines merging together, and that's probably where it lies best, is just in in a side game like that, like Hyrule Warriors. It's definitely most fitting. This chat thing actually gonna work? Oh, it does work. Wow. This chat never worked before, but I think I need to fix it. Here we go. That chat never worked before, but I don't know. I probably still need to fix it more, but anyway. Yeah, what I was saying kind of at the top of the stream for those who didn't hear though was for Tears of the Kingdom, I guess my hot takes are we're not going to get any real references to the Twilight or Twilight Princess, except for maybe some Easter eggs. And we're also not going to get any references to Vati or anything with that, again, except for maybe Easter eggs. I've seen some theories and people think there's a chance that some of that stuff might happen based on like the logo and the sword thing with all the Twilight looking lines and stuff. I just don't see it happening. And then the mysterious figure, bunny rabbit looking thing in the latest trailer, my guess is either a completely new character that we had no idea, or it is the hero spirit connected to Link in some way. But again, kind of new character or whatever, but could be like in the same way that Hylia and Demise are related to Zelda and Ganondorf respectively, that this figure could be like Link's equivalent of that. Hey, what's going on? Thisby, hopefully I said that name right. And then Ryan, I think you were, yeah, you've been here. But it'll be a basic tease of fan service, just like Breath of the Wild. Yeah, definitely possible. Easter egg, sure. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom look like distant to the other Zeldas. Yeah, they're too distant. I mean, time doesn't necessarily have to be a thing. I just think that historically, the Zelda team likes to do something new, and then sometimes they'll like make little references to stuff, but otherwise that's like kind of it. For instance, if you want to talk about like stuff that has to do with the sky, right? In Minish Cap, they have the Sky Tribe. So you're like, oh wow, like they have this palace in the sky, and there are people called the Sky Tribe. And then in Twilight Princess, they have another palace in the sky, but it's the Uka. And then in Skyward Sword, we were like, oh, we're definitely going to learn more about the Uka, right? We have this whole area in the sky. Surely we'll learn more about the Uka. Like, they were close to the gods and all this stuff. And in Skyward Sword, you know, we just had Skyloft, a couple of other islands. That was kind of it. It's like they kept going back to the sky, but they didn't, like, you could maybe draw your own conclusions, but they always seem to do something new. And then I'm sure with this, with the sky, people are like, oh, we're gonna see Skyloft and all that. There's a good chance we just won't, and they just do their new thing with like maybe the Zonai, because that seems like based on that it could be the Zonai in the sky, and then we don't learn anything new about the Uka, the Wind Tribe, or Skyloft or anything. Since Breath of the Wild, I realized how important atmosphere and presentation are. If the divine beasts are there, bosses didn't all look identical, then it would pretty much be better received, but the gameplay was on point. Yeah. And I'm in the moment, in your first playthrough, it's an amazing game. I think once you've just kind of played through it and you've seen everything and you know what to expect, the game does lose a little bit of its luster. But Breath of the Wild is still like an incredibly magical experience the first time you play it. But yeah, I mean, even before you finish the Divine Beast, once you're like 2 or 3 Divine Beasts in and you kind of realize that they're all the same in a way, it's definitely a disappointment. Let's see. I never thought about how the figure could be to link with Demise. Oh yeah, Demise and Zelda to Hylia. It's possible. I mean, I'm just going by like, if we have to go on the assumption that that figure is also the green hand thingy, because we could be like, oh well, the green energy could be courage related, as the blue energy is kind of related to wisdom and technology, and the red energy is the power. It's like Ganon's whatever, his malice. Ganon is associated with power. Let's see. I hope they choose more immersive places for dungeons. I agree. I think the whole atmosphere and lore behind dungeons was part of what made it amazing. 1 link or 2 links? Ace, I am on the 1 link train. And then let's see here. I also want a game with Sheik as the main character. Did you hear about that? That there was going to be a game, Ace, and they canceled it, unfortunately. But apparently it was a disaster. And Ryan says, it's best we didn't see the Uka and Skyward Sword. They be creepy. I do agree. But I remember prior to Skyward Sword coming out, people were like certain we were going to learn more about them, or that we would see them. And again, that's just, I feel like that's classic Zelda, where we speculate that like, oh, because they've already had these like sky tribes, that surely we'll learn more about this. Like, people were so certain about there being, like, I guess it's more of a thing in the Japanese versions of the game based on the translations, but like this whole demon tribe thing with like, people were trying to relate like Majora and like Onyx and Varen and like all these things, like it's all been culminating in this like dark tribe that's like part of like Ganon's army or whatever. And people were so certain we were going to learn more about that. And it's not really a thing, and it never really kind of came to be a thing. So I feel like we always get hyped up like, oh, we're definitely going to get this and this and this and this. And then they always go in kind of a direction we don't expect. So that's why I'm saying, don't believe the hype on Twilight Princess stuff, on Vati stuff. Especially if there's no 4-sword, why would there... I just feel like Vati wouldn't be there, right? He's always been associated with games connected to the 4-sword. So... and this game's about restoring the Master Sword, we assume. So don't believe the hype. Okay? Don't get your hopes up that we're gonna see, like, oh, Midna's coming back. And, you know, and like, I mean, there's more to Fee potentially coming back, but I still don't think... I don't even think Fee is gonna come back, especially with the Master Sword being all busted up, but... Again, like the way that Fee was alluded to in Breath of the Wild, I feel like is like the perfect classic Zelda thing of like, oh wow, the sword glowed, like that was Fee. Like it's like a nice little reference, but they don't bring Fee back. Or Fi. I've always called her Fi, but I feel like Fee is actually the right thing to call her. But I feel like they always love to, they drop just enough to keep you speculating, keeping you interested, but they don't go over the top with fan service unless it's like a Hyrule Warrior situation. But yeah, back to what Ace was saying, like the one link or the two link theory. I really truly believe that the whole ancient hero thing is just an alternate outfit. And it could also give a little bit more ammunition to the theory that the mysterious figure was a past Link. And that's his outfit. And that's just an outfit like you collect in the game. Just like you collect like the Hero of the Wild outfit or whatever. The bottom of the sword in the Tears of the Kingdom logo does look like Twilight, as if it gets restored with the help. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it, but it also looks enough like the Zonai stuff too. I'm just saying, don't get your hopes up. I like as soon as I saw that and people said it looked like Twilight, I just like rolled my eyes because literally every game since Twilight Princess, there's been at least one theory about how the Twilight stuff was coming back for this game. Like, I feel like it's been happening ever since ever since Twilight Princess came out. I think people thought it for Skyward Sword, people thought it for Twilight for Breath of the Wild. Probably nobody thought about it for Link Between Worlds, but definitely for Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild there were theories about how the Twilight were coming back, or how that mirror or the mirror thing side quest was like the mirror of Twilight, but I just don't think it is. Yeah, Link does have two looks in the trailer. I wonder if it's time travel. I also don't think time travel is going to be a thing either. I don't see it happening. It's possible, you know, I'm not going to rule it out, but I don't see it. I think it's just two different outfits, and that's it. It just seems like people have been comparing. Like, I think all the footage everyone's compared, it doesn't seem like we see, unless they just haven't shown any footage of like 10,000 years ago, but I don't know. I feel like with all the Sky Islands and stuff going on, that they don't, I would be shocked if they were able to fit in a separate in the past timeline overworld or whatever, however they would do it. I just highly doubt it. And for what it's worth, I know the Hylian Games cast who said that they were close to someone who worked on like Breath of the Wild or whatever, and that person who had participated on working Breath of the Wild, I don't know about Tears of the Kingdom, when someone made a tweet about how there was no two Links and it was just a alternate outfit, that person liked the tweet. So it's definitely not confirmation of anything, but it was like the closest you could get to an insider was maybe affirming that it's just an outfit. After you play Messenger, you want to work with time, like one hero and two timeline or something. Yeah. But I feel like Zelda needs to cool it on the time travel. It never usually goes well, at least for trying to make sense of all the events. Like when I was playing Age of Calamity and I realized that there was going to be time travel, I just like rolled my eyes. I'm like, here we go again. But I guess I understand why they did it in that game, because It would have been a very depressing ending if they had just done the events of the Calamity. As cool as it would have been like a Rogue One situation. But I get from a gameplay perspective, it probably feels a little bit more satisfying to actually win in the end. Because otherwise your last fight would just kind of be like Link getting destroyed by a Guardian, which wouldn't exactly be the most compelling thing. More Link McFly, yeah. I think we're good on time travel. Zelda doesn't need time travel for a little while. I think we're definitely good on that. Yeah. But, yeah, I think that's... Unless there's any last minute questions, I may call it here. Just because I feel like I've kind of gone over stuff. Everything I wanted to talk about, but I'll definitely take some last questions. Rob User, you hate on Phantom Hourglass's soundtrack too much. I still feel that it's, well, first of all, thank you for watching the review, or if you watch the tier list. I feel like it still is the weakest soundtrack, but you know, there's still some games I have to review. But it has some good music in it, don't get me wrong. But a lot of it is either borrowed directly from Wind Waker, or the cave music and like the island music is just not good. It's just really bad. And that's what you hear a lot, like most of the time. But there's some really good stuff. Like the worst Zelda soundtrack is still a really good soundtrack. So yeah, that's my feelings on that. It's still like, in relation to all the other Zelda games, I do feel it is the weakest. But that doesn't mean it's bad. Because I like Linebeck's theme, the Ocean King theme's good. The kind of their own, like that game's version of the Great Sea theme is good. There's some other great music, like when you're trying to find... is it the ghost ship for a dungeon or something? There's a lot of good music, but the music you hear most of the time is not good. Let's see. Raphael says, I actually hope that the green hand in Tears of the Kingdom won't be an annoying gimmick, which it could be, yeah. I was just talking about how it could potentially be a thing where you need the green energy for Link to prevent himself from being fully corrupted. And it could be like a Iron Man situation where if his power runs out, the piece of metal hits his heart and he dies. But it could be like a Link thing where if the green energy runs out, he gets fully corrupted and he dies. Or that green stuff could just be his like magic meter. So it's could go multitude of ways. Those are just two possibilities. People were likening it to Princess Mononoke, a Miyazaki film, which I have not seen, but maybe I'll watch it tonight because it might give me some inspiration for maybe a video or something. But yeah, I figured I'd get my next videos are probably not going to be Tears of the Kingdom related, just because I feel like all the kind of theories are out there and there's nothing. I figured I'd just get out of my system anything I wanted to talk about, but unless something new comes up, of course, if new stuff comes up. I know there was people who were working on and trying to confirm the translations of the Zonai language stuff. I saw some of that, but nothing to really make any assumptions off of. Corruption thing sounds like Pandora's Tower. I have not seen that either, but might have to take a look at that. But anyway, guys, I think I think I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you guys for hanging out. Super appreciate you guys typing in the chat and coming up with questions. Yeah, this is kind of my when's the next tier list? All right, I'll take this as the last question before I head out. Unless a big idea, unless I have a really good idea that I really want to do, I think I'm taking like a little bit of a break from the tier lists, just because I want it to be an idea I really want to do, and I feel like I've done a lot. I've probably done more Zelda tier lists than anybody else. So if I have a really good idea that I am really passionate about doing, I will 100% do it. But I will say when Tears of the Kingdom comes out, I will definitely be doing plenty of tier lists. Like, assuming we have dungeons, I will do a dungeon tier list for that game, and then I'll probably redo the 3D dungeon tier list because that may recontextualize everything. So once the new game comes out, I'll have plenty of tier lists to do. But until then, it's really going to be maybe not as often. I think the way I want to approach content for now, tentatively, is I want to just focus on putting out like more higher quality videos into and then when Tears of the Kingdom comes out, I may be spamming more videos at that point, because I do want to potentially, don't quote me on this, but my thinking is when Tears of the Kingdom comes out to try and do daily videos for the first month of release. But up until then, I have some like theory videos I want to work on, and my Breath of the Wild review as part of my like reviewing every Zelda series. So those are the main things I want to work on. So yeah, next video will probably be a review, not a review, I'm sorry. Will be a theory about an Ocarina of Time theory video on something nobody ever talks about involving the ending of Ocarina of Time. I tried to look for this answer everywhere, and it has to do with the scene of Zelda sending Link back in time, and they're in this like clouded place, like in the sky, and I'm like, where the heck is that? Well, that's what my next video is going to be about, but I need to work on getting footage for that. But yeah, so tier lists are kind of like on a mini hiatus unless I have an idea I really want to do, but when Tears of the Kingdom comes out, it's going to be a lot. But anyway, that is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I'll leave this up for anyone who wants to watch it. Normally I kind of hide the live streams, but I figured people always ask me about them, so I'll just leave it up. And so if you missed some of it, you can go back and watch the rest. But anyway, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.